Hello, I'm Fast Lawyer. Today we're going to do a Let's Play and impressions for Inverse VR, a game that was released on the Steam store back in December of 2023. However, now it's on a deep discount, 94% off. It's only 89 cents. Yes, you heard that correctly. 89 cents, less than $1 currently on the Steam store. And that'll be the case until Monday. So you basically have less than 48 hours to get this game on this deep discount. And I highly recommend Inverse VR at 89 cents. I actually received a free Steam key through the Steam Creator Connect program to review this game. And I have about 5 total hours playing this game. I wanted to put more hours to do a full review, but I'm just not very good at doing online multiplayer games. But with the sale ending in less than 48 hours, I thought, you know what, let me just put out a video to put out the word that this is probably the best game you can buy at this kind of price. It's kind of crazy to me. It's basically being given away for free, basically. And it might go free to play in the future, I don't know. But what I do know is that this is the best Dead by Daylight clone in VR, bar none. This game is a must-buy at this sale price, at this fire sale. Because really the only thing wrong with this game currently is just that it needs a bigger player base. Now, there are still people playing this game. I played several games tonight, and the first 2 games I played, I was going against bots, but some people started coming in on my second game, and from that point on, there were usually several players, real players playing with me, although there was never a full lobby of players, meaning that all 4 agents were real players, including the killer. That never happened. But everyone who was on the microphone was very friendly, although there were some players who were not using the microphone at all. Now, if you're familiar with Dead by Daylight, then you'll be very familiar with a lot of the game mechanics in Inverse. The games share a lot of the same DNA, although there are some key differences. But let me first start off by just explaining what Inverse is. Inverse is a asymmetrical horror game PvP 4v1 with 4 agents versus 1 null. In Dead by Daylight terms, that would be 4 survivors versus the killer. There is AI for both the null and for the agents. You can play quick play, where you'll likely join a public lobby that's already in progress. If not, start your own game. Or you can join a private lobby so that you're only playing with your friends. There's also single player challenge maps where you can learn the fundamentals of the game without the pressure of playing against other players that are more experienced. Currently there are 5 maps and 2 different killers. The survivors are all the same, so unlike Dead by Daylight, which has different characters that have different perks to unlock, here when you buy the game you basically have all the killers, which are 2 different killers, and all the survivors, which is just really 1. Now you can buy cosmetics, but there's only 4 of them, and there's really only pattern differences between them. So unlike Dead by Daylight, which has different characters and different licenses, none of that is here. Like Dead by Daylight, the main objective here is to do the gen. So you have to complete 3 gens to get into the second phase of the game. So there's 2 different phases. The first one is just powering up enough gens, 3 of them, in order to get to the second stage, which is the extermination phase. So this is when the guns unlock. So unlike Dead by Daylight, where the exit gates are powered, here is where the agents fight back and try to take down the null before the null takes down all survivors. And recently the Swarm update was introduced to Inverse, which changed the extermination phase just a little bit. Now skitters spawn, which are like little insects that'll jump all over, just to help out the killer a little bit during this phase, just to make it a little bit more difficult. Although I don't think I've ever lost a game where we got to the second phase. It usually ends on the gen phase. Either you completed the gens and unlocked the weapons, or you did not. Now there are different equipment and perks to unlock as you gain experience in this game. And like I mentioned, there also are two different gnolls or killers with different abilities, and they play very differently. Now I'm not going to get into all of that because that would make this a very long video and more like a tutorial than an impressions video. But I will say that I think the self-revive is very important, especially if you're playing solo. This allows you to pick yourself up after you've been down by the killer. One of the big differences between this game and Dead by Daylight is that in Dead by Daylight, generally, although not always, the killer has to hook you after downing you. That's not the case in this game. In this game, when you're down, you pretty much stay in that position, and you have to rely on others to revive you. Otherwise, you're just stuck there. With the self-revive, you're able to pick yourself up after being down, and that is one of the most important abilities, perks in this game if you're playing solo, because you cannot rely on your teammates to pick you back up. Now, if you're playing with a group of friends and you are in comms, then obviously if you're talking to each other, you don't need that at all. But if you're playing solo, that is like a must bring to this game. There's other useful equipment as well. There's one that lets you see the position of other agents and the killer. That's very strong. There's also lots of useful perks as well. There's a perk that allows you to do generators faster if you're near a teammate. There's another perk that lets you run faster if the killer injures you, and there's another perk that heals you if you revive another teammate. Like DBD, there's also items in the map to help you out. There's obviously one that heals you if you inject yourself, or one that gives you a speed boost. There's one that you can throw and it creates a shield and it blocks the killer from getting into it. That's a perfect way to block a door entrance. There's another one that stuns the killer. This is probably the strongest one, because you have something when you're doing a generator to help you out. So you can throw it near the generator, and when you see the killer, you just run towards it, and this automatically stuns the killer if the killer gets near it. So it can be very strong if placed correctly and you know your map pretty well. One of the key differences between Inverse and Dead by Daylight is just the lack of pallets. So there are no pallets. So the chase mechanic here is pretty different. You're gonna be relying on the items. Like I said, the shield one and the stun one, probably with some perks as well, in order to be able to get away from the killer, lose line of sight, so that way the killer stops chasing you, or at the very least you waste a lot of the killer's time. Now the game is running on the Unreal Engine on my RTX 3080 on the Quest 3. I was getting mostly 72 frames per second, the Quest 3 default, although I did have several frame rate drops every now and then. The game would drop to like 60 frames per second, but nothing too bad. You do have full locomotion along with smooth and snap turning. You can choose the speed of the turn as well. You do have a button crouch, so you can play comfortably seated. I did not experience any serious issues or bugs. I did have fun playing this game as a Dead by Daylight fan who has over 1,000 hours in Dead by Daylight. This is pretty close to everything I've wanted in a Dead by Daylight clone in VR. Really the only thing missing, like I said, is a bigger player base, you know, along with like licensed killers and stuff like that. But As far as the VR game mechanics, they all work pretty well. My biggest gripe with the game is actually that the arms, the hands feel a little bit too low when you're playing seated, but they look perfectly fine when you play standing. The other big gripe is kind of related to the player population, and that is matchmaking. You never know what you're going to get with a game of Inverse. It's possible that you have a great group of agents that are fun to play with, along with a killer that has a skill level where it's the appropriate challenge, but you never know. It could be a killer that has hundreds of hours and has a lot more skill than any of the agents and brings you all down pretty quickly. It could be AI that's pretty dumb and not much of a challenge. So from game to game, you just don't know the quality of the game that you're gonna get. Whenever I played with AI, it wasn't as much fun as when I played with other real player agents and a real player null. Those were the most fun matches.
You can press this lever.
And if I was rating this game just based on the sale price currently of 89 cents, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Like I said, really the biggest problem is just the player population. If there were lots of players playing this, then at 89 cents, this would be one of the best VR experiences you can have. This is one of the better VR PvP experiences out there. It's one of the most unique ones. We don't have a lot of games like this that aren't just online multiplayer shooters. This is something different. Like I said, if you like Dead by Daylight, then I think you'll like this VR translation. Is this game as good as Dead by Daylight? As someone who has thousands of hours in Dead by Daylight, I can say obviously no. Dead by Daylight has a lot more depths, has a lot more killers, has a lot more survivors. There's a ton of perks in that game, and there's just a whole lot more depth to the gameplay. But for a VR translation, this is about as good as it can get, in my opinion. So anyways, like I said, I had fun at 89 cents. I'm not sure you're going to find a better game in VR, so I highly recommend it. I think it's a must buy at the 89 cents price. Anyways, I'm Fast Lawyer. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of the video.
Ready? Hell yeah. My homie.
Warning. Hello? Go. Terminals complete. Weapons are now available.
I'm coming, I'm fine. Yeah!
Mission success. Well done, personnel.